Why McDonald's makes more money from real estate than burgers? McDonald's sold billions of burgers last year, tens of billions of dollars in revenue, golden arches in over 100 countries. And if you asked most people what McDonald's actually is, they'd say, it's a burger company. They'd be wrong. McDonald's Corporation crossed out, replaced with McDonald's Real Estate Corporation. McDonald's has, at various points, literally been chartered under the name McDonald's Realty or operated a subsidiary, explicitly built to buy and hold land. The company that put a hamburger stand on every corner in America did it by quietly becoming one of the largest private landlords on the planet. The scale of the empire. Let's start with the size of what we're talking about, because the numbers are genuinely hard to process. As of the end of 2025, McDonald's operates more than 45,000 restaurants across roughly 115 to 120 countries and territories. That number itself is a little misleading, though, because McDonald's has publicly stated a goal of hitting 50,000 locations by 2027. This is a company still expanding aggressively, particularly in China, India, and Southeast Asia. Break down where those restaurants actually are. The United States remains the largest single market, with around 13,700 locations. China has rocketed up to over 7,700, growing more than 13% in a single year. Japan sits around 3,000. Then you've got France, Canada, the UK, Germany, Brazil, Australia, and Italy rounding out the top 10. Here's a stat that might surprise you. McDonald's isn't even the largest fast food chain in the world anymore by location count. As of 2024, that title belongs to Mixu Ice Cream and Tea, a Chinese chain most Americans have never heard of, with 0 U.S. locations and tens of thousands of stores across Asia. McDonald's is now the second largest fast food company in the world by number of restaurants. But here's the thing that actually matters for this video. Of those 45,000 plus McDonald's restaurants, roughly 95% are franchised. They are not owned and operated by McDonald's Corporation. They're owned by independent local business owners. People who paid a franchise fee, signed a contract, and now run the day-to-day burger business. So if McDonald's Corporation isn't the one flipping the patties at 95% of its locations, what exactly is McDonald's Corporation doing? And more importantly, how is it making, by some measures, more money from that arrangement than an actual burger company would? That's where the story gets interesting. And it starts with a guy most people have never heard of. Here's the sentence that's going to reframe this entire video for you. When a McDonald's franchisee sells you a Big Mac, a huge chunk of that sale doesn't go toward the beef, the bun, or the special sauce. It goes to McDonald's Corporation and Harry Sonneborn. Everybody knows the name Ray Kroc, thanks to the movie The Founder. Most people know the broad strokes. Kroc was a milkshake machine salesman who discovered the McDonald Brothers hamburger stand in San Bernardino, California, saw the efficiency of their speedy service system, and turned it into a national franchise empire starting in 1955. What most people don't know is that Ray Kroc's franchising business, in its early years, was actually not very profitable, and the man who fixed that, the man who arguably built the actual financial engine of McDonald's, wasn't Kroc. It was a financier named Harry Sonneborn. Sonneborn joined McDonald's in the mid-1950s, and he looked at the business model Kroc was running and saw a fundamental problem. Kroc was charging franchisees a small licensing fee and taking a tiny royalty, often just a fraction of a cent per hamburger. On a 15-cent burger, that's basically nothing. You can't build an empire on royalty pennies, especially when you're competing with suppliers, banks, and franchisees who all want their cut too. Sonneborn's insight was this: don't try to make money selling burgers. Make money owning the dirt underneath the burger stand. Here's how the mechanism actually worked, step by step. McDonald's Corporation, not the franchisee, would acquire the land, either buying it outright or securing a long-term lease. McDonald's would then either build the restaurant itself or have significant control over the building. The franchisee would sign an agreement to operate the restaurant, but the lease would be with McDonald's, not a third-party landlord. McDonald's would then charge the franchisee rent on that property, often at a markup over what McDonald's itself was paying, on top of the ongoing royalty on sales. This is the part that reframes everything. The franchisee isn't just paying to use the brand name and the operating system. They're paying rent to McDonald's for the building they work in every single day. And crucially, this rent wasn't structured as a flat fee. It was often structured as a percentage of the restaurant's gross sales, with a guaranteed minimum. So if the restaurant did well, McDonald's rent income went up automatically without McDonald's corporate having to cook a single fry. Sonneborn is widely credited with a line along these lines, something to the effect that McDonald's is fundamentally in the real estate business, and hamburgers are simply the vehicle that gets franchisees in the door to pay the rent. The exact original wording of that quote has been repeated and paraphrased so many times over 70 years that nobody can point to a single verified original source, so treat it as the spirit of Sonneborn's philosophy rather than a word-for-word transcript. But the underlying strategy is extremely well documented, including in McDonald's own SEC file, how the money actually flows today. Okay, so that's the history. Let's bring this into the present and actually look at the money. Simplified McDonald's income statement graphic. McDonald's revenue today breaks down into two broad buckets. Bucket 1. Sales by company-operated restaurants. This is the roughly 5% of locations that McDonald's Corporation runs itself, no franchisee involved. Here, McDonald's collects 100% of the burger, fries, and drink revenue, but it also eats 100% of the costs, labor, food, utilities, maintenance, everything. Bucket 2. Revenues from franchised restaurants. This is the big one, and it has three components. Rent, payments for the use of the land and building. Royalties, typically a percentage of gross sales, historically often cited around 4 to 5%. Initial fees, the upfront payment a new franchisee makes to join the system. Pie chart or bar comparison. Now here's the number that should stop you in your tracks. One widely cited estimate puts the effective base rent franchisees pay at around 10.7% of gross sales, among the highest rent-to-sales ratios in the entire restaurant franchising industry. Compare that to the royalty rate, which is typically in the 4 to 5% range. The rent McDonald's charges is often more than double the royalty it charges. Let that sink in. McDonald's, as a brand licensor, takes roughly 4 to 5% off the top for the right to use the name, the systems, the marketing, the supply chain relationships. But as a landlord, it's estimated to take over 10%, more than double. That's the whole thesis of this video in one statistic. The land is worth more to McDonald's than the brand. Dollar figures rolling. Estimates place McDonald's total annual rental income from franchisees at over $9 billion a year, and that's before royalties are even factored in. For context, McDonald's total system-wide revenue in its most recent fiscal year came in at roughly $26.9 billion in reported total revenues, with net income around $8.5 billion. Rental income alone is a massive slice of that pie, arguably the single most stable and predictable. This is also where